Hello friends, I'll be starting building some application using Tauri 1.0. Tauri 1.0 is recently launched, so I'm quite excited about learning Tauri and hopefully you can learn something from me. This Tauri is used to build cross-platform desktop application, currently using which you can build application for Mac, Linux and Windows, using all HTML, CSS and JavaScript skills. And there is one popular framework available, which is Electron. In this Electron also you can build cross-platform desktop application using JavaScript, HTML and CSS. And if you see, there are very popular applications, for example, Visual Studio Code, WhatsApp, Twitch, Slack are developed all using Electron. But why we are so excited and why there is a new framework coming to the picture? Because this Electron is quite heavy. It ships with Node.js runtime and Chrome based web view or V8 engine. And one of the simple application, if you try to build with Electron, it is like more than 100 to 200 megabyte of size. That is bare minimum. And also the memory usage for the Electron application quite huge. So if you are building like the popular application like Visual Studio Code or WhatsApp, so your end user don't mind to download the 200 megabyte. But imagine a situation you want to build a simple application with a simple set of features. So definitely it would be very tough to convince user to download the application of that heavy size. So Tauri is try to solve that particular problem. Once you build the desktop application, the size is quite minimal. It can come reduced to less than 10 megabyte, which is very significant size reduction. If you compare with 10 megabyte to 100 and 200 MB. And because the Tauri is built on the backbone of Rust, so the memory footprint is very less. Because Rust is quite optimized because there is no garbage collection. And it is a bit of learning curve. I created several videos you can watch to have a better understanding of Rust. So there are two components of it. One is all the front-end logic in the Tauri 1.0. You can build using HTML, CSS or JavaScript. Or you can use any framework. There is no limitation for that. So you can use React, Vue, Angular, Svelte or Preact or anything. Because this Tauri also come as part of like its bundle like WebKit or WebView. So as of today, as of 1.0 release, you can deploy your application in Mac, like Linux and Windows. You don't need to write different code base for different operating system. But in future, like same code base may also work in mobile, for example, Android and iOS. But it is 1.0 doesn't contain that feature yet. So this to Tauri today, I'm going to build an application where I'm planning to create a AWS DynamoDB Explorer so that I can view its table, query it, and that's my planning. And I will learn as I go. So I did some already coding, and I will demonstrate step by step. Like mostly I will do the code walkthrough, some of the important concept instead of do the live coding, so that I'll explain so that you can follow me. And I'll post the link in the GitHub so you can watch the code base as well. So today I'll do some hello world program, set up that Tauri 1.0. I'm going to use React for my purpose. So I'll develop my application using React. So React is also very quite popular framework. And to build the Tauri, so we are going to use Vite. This is come as part of packaging and Tauri. Tauri give all the built-in support how to create your file very quickly. So Vite is quite interesting. Here you can do instant server start, because if you use native React application process like Webpack or other thing, that application load is very slow. But if you use Vite, so the changes will be reflected very quickly. It has like lightning fast HMR. I am also quite impressed by this hot model replacement. The minute you change this code, so immediately it reflected. I'll show you what I mean. This Vite is quite interesting, and it comes with lots of plugins it has support for Vue, like React, Angular, and all the front-end framework. So Tauri, you don't need to do anything separately for Vite. So whenever you follow the instruction, it will try to configure everything for you. So in the Tauri 1.0, important thing to note is that all the UI layer you are going to write into using React, and all the backend I'm going to use Rust. So the front end React plus TypeScript, and also I configured the Tailwind CSS. So I'll show you some of this lesson learning today. And you can install using any package manager like npm, yarn, and pnpm. This to start, but you have to do some more setup. There are some prerequisite because that landing page is not very explanatory, because you need Rust. Because all your end customer doesn't need to install Rust, so you can give that .exe file and that make application binary. They can able to install it. But for your development purpose, you need to set up all your machine. You need to install the Rust, and you follow the Rust instruction in the Rust website or in this website. Like you can install, and it needs some kind of, if you're using Mac, it needs some command line utility like compiler and so on. But if you follow the instruction, it is quite easy, and it is also directing toward this Rust website. This Rust UP is part of Rust ecosystem. It is a Rust toolchain. So if you run this shell script, it is quite easy, and it will install this Rust compiler and cargo. Cargo is a kind of package manager. So you can follow the instruction. So Rust compiler, you need to have that installed to develop the code, and you can install this cargo. There is a Tauri CLI come into the picture. So either you can use Tauri CLI, or you can use like CLI provided by npm or yarn or pnp. So this cargo, whichever you are comfortable. If you are more comfortable to use like cargo Tauri, so you can install this cargo install Tauri CLI. Or if you are comfortable with npm yarn, so no need to install everything. So depending upon your convenience, you can use it. So I have installed this yarn Tauri and also this cargo just in case. So both I install. So sometimes I use that, sometimes this I am not set my mind yet. And quick start, you can follow. There are two instructions. There is simple HTML CSS file, but I am more inclined towards like creating file using React. So I go through this approach, Vite. So I have used this yarn create Tauri app. It asks me a set of questions, and it bootstraps the entire project, and I have to answer only 3 to 4 questions. It's quite very simple, and it is very seamless, and then the hello world program will be booted up. I'll quickly show you now. So once you do this yarn create Tauri app, so this is the folder structure it will be created. So these are the folder structure it will be created when you do this yarn create Tauri app. So it will create 2 important folder. One is source and one is source Tauri. Okay, these 2 are important folders where you are actually going to write the code, and rest of those are configuration. And on top of this bare setup, I have already installed the Tailwind, which is a CSS framework. So this Tailwind related thing I have added. I'll show you in a second. So starting from the bottom, like this Vite config, this is the default config is created. So we don't need to get deep dive onto that, and I have not modified anything apart from default setup. So if I in the future, if I modify anything, I'll try to explain why I modify, and I'll show you what exactly the effect. This is the Vite config. This is I'm going to write like React using TypeScript. So this is the standard tsconfig JSON file, and this is the Tailwind. So Tailwind, I have given the source path where the code base is located. This is the src directory, And because I am going to use TS and TSX, I modified from the by default instruction JS, TSS, JS and JSX to TS and TSX. This is the only modification I have made on this file. And this port CSS, this is by default configuration. And in this package decision, if you notice, there are some script which we can use when we are developing the code. For deb is Vite, you will be do auto reload, and for building like TypeScript compiler and Vite build and so on. And dependency is mostly that React dependency, and this is the API, Tauri apps API. This particular package revision I only involved for the source directory, and this is not related to the Rust anything. Or all the Rust related code is located under the source dash story folder. And the dependencies were quite minimal. We have not added too many dependency, only one thing. And there are deb dependency. Deb dependency is not going to plot your application file. It is just going to help you for getting some types for the TypeScript. And there are few plugins for doing the hot deployment for Vite and so on. And this three part is needed for the Tailwind CSS. Tailwind CSS, port CSS, and auto prefixer. And this is the TypeScript and Vite. These all are deb dependency. And this is the index HTML, the standard one, like which have some kind of meta information, and div ID root tag, and script is the main TXS. And if you go here, this Vite environment file, that we don't have any use for this yet. And this is also .d.ts. It is for TypeScript enablement only, so not very important. The main.tss, I just removed all that additional logo and all manifest file what I don't require. So just kind of bootstrap a simple project. This is a simple React application, no change here. And if you see this index.css, I have replaced with the Tailwind code. Ignore this warning because this is not like CSS standard. The post processor and the Vite and all this build system will convert whatever the Tailwind classes you will use on the runtime. It will compile and it will try to extract those classes and create another file. So it will be part of your distribution or build package. So you don't need to worry too much about CSS. Just add this 3 line as per the instruction and ignore these warnings. And this is the app.css. Very simple React application. We have headed tables, and I was just trying with flex text red color just to make sure this Tailwind is affecting or not. In this Tailwind, it is a kind of utility framework, so we can change this color and some classes. This is a very minimal code, and this is what about like React, and we're going to write lots of React code in future. And once we see the React code, we can see this Rust code here. These icons come as part of default icons, story icons. In future, we'll try to customize as per our icon to our own application. But for the time being, it is well and good. Target will be generated binaries. And this Tauri config is very important file, but I am not going to, there is a default file, whatever is generated, but in future we are going to change a significant portion of it. So once we change it, I'll explain where I change and why. But for the time being, I am not going to, explain in detail. And this is the only file related to Tauri config. And if you see this cargo toml, this cargo toml file also generated by Tauri. Yeah, this would be seems interesting. Like using this Tauri, we have to toggle between this Rust code as well as JavaScript. If you know both of them, it would be fun. This cargo dependencies, this is the package information like this name, person, so on. Tauri is the build. This we don't need to worry. This already come as part of default. I have not modified anything. In future, we are going to add like dependency like Tokyo runtime, AWS SDK to interact with DynamoDB and so on. But all this come as part of Tauri default installation. So everything is set up just to get started. It is very quick. And build.rs also, this is created by Tauri. We are not going to modify and not writing code anything here as well. And this git ignore. Just to ignore this target because this is not we are committing to GitHub. And coming to the source. Yeah, there are some macro. There is some debug instruction and some meta information which is not very helpful. And this is where that your application will be started. So we'll try to customize it and pass lots of different option parameter. Like by default, this will be entry point, Tauri builder default, run generated context. It will panic if something goes wrong. But in next video, I'll try to write some Rust code and JavaScript code and try to do interaction with them. So most of the code related with that JDB like DynamoDB integration, I'll write into Rust, and all this UI layer I'll going to write into the React. And let me show you how to execute it. So we can execute using yarn, npm, or there are lots of command available. So all will do basically same thing. Here I am trying with cargo Tauri dev. Okay, once you do that, if it is for first time, it is already started. See that even though I'm doing streaming, it is started like this front end part by Vite. It took like 3 seconds. This cargo part will take some time in few seconds. But if you once you compile it, next time it will be a bit quicker. So both started. Now if you see, this is the application because I trimmed everything. Tables with red color is coming. Let's say if I modify this source here. This is compiled immediately. And table list. If I try to change this color. See, it say cross 2. It immediately did hot deploy. And this blue color is reflected immediately. So this is extremely fast. This enabled by Vite, So any front end change you will do that, it will be immediately reflecting into the screen. But anything you do in the Rust, it will take a bit of time, maybe a couple of more seconds, but it is not that worse. So in the next video, I'll try to create like how this JavaScript code and Rust code will interact with each other, how we can pass this data around. And also I'll implement some DynamoDB functions slowly, AWS functions, so you can learn that as well. And I'll post this GitHub link below in the description below so that you can refer till this point and you can follow me as well. So hope you learned something for today. Have a good day ahead. Bye bye.